Hey everyone, welcome to a new episode of the program presented by Novig. My guest this week, one of the best young coaches in all of basketball, Utah Jazz coach Will Hardy. Let's get to my conversation with Will. This episode of the program is presented by Novig, the peer-to-peer sports prediction market with no house, no hidden fees, and the best odds in the game. Whether you're a casual fan or a sharp trader, Novig lets you play smarter, win bigger, and make sports picks in a whole new way. And it's available in over 35 states. Learn more at novig.us/Woj and use code the program for a match up to $100 on your first purchase. Welcome into Utah Jazz head coach Will Hardy. Will, how are you, man?
I'm great. Well, it's good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. Let me start here with you, Will. And we talk about program building. You walk in today, it's a game day in Utah. You've got a shoot around. What does good culture look like around your building? Whether it's game day, practice day, what are the things you're looking for as a head coach that tell you, hey, our culture's pretty good today, or maybe it's not what it should be?
I think every day you're preparing to win, and the energy that takes each day, the focus that it takes, the willingness to do monotonous things with force are the things that I'm looking for every day. Like, do you have a process to how you go about your work every day, and are you attacking it full go? It's easy in different moments to maybe let a day sort of wash over you and go through the motions. You're not quite paying attention during the warm up with the strength and conditioning group. You're not giving maximum output in the weight room. We're doing not necessarily live reps at a shoot around. So it's easy to let your brain drift and to waste those moments. The second piece for me culturally is how we're all interacting with each other. Like, is there this spirit of we're trying to uplift each other, that we're all trying to pull each other in the same direction? I don't expect for every person in our building to be having the best day every day. That's just not how human beings work. And so we talk a lot about when things are going well for you, to reach out and try to pull others along. And that on a day when maybe it's not going well for you, that you should be going to the group. You should be going to the group to try to find that source of energy and drive, because we're all capable of having the days where either you don't feel good, something's going on in your life, your confidence is a little bit down. Like, those things are all part of the human experience. And so it takes all of us to create that environment every day.
Well, you've been in Utah, you've essentially had very young teams, among the youngest teams in the league, as head coach there. But you've been around your time in San Antonio, obviously, your season in Boston. You've been around veteran teams. Is there a difference? You're talking about that focus and that attention to detail and process in those monotonous times. Is there a dramatic difference between a veteran team working through it with them versus a very young team?
I think the veteran teams that I've been fortunate enough to be around, they're already trained to execute those monotonous things. You don't have to remind them as much. I think with our young guys, a lot of it is just trying to sort of redirect their focus. All of our guys have a willingness to work. and they love being in the gym. It's just some days you can tell they're not quite sure what they should be focused on. I think the veteran guys have a clarity about what's important in terms of what they need to be focused on, whether it's prepping for a team or what they need to be focused on in terms of getting their body prepared to play. And so for us, it's about trying to help our young guys prioritize those things. They want to, and they have a willingness to work. It's just some days they don't exactly know what direction they should be looking. I still have seared in my brain this mental image of Tim Duncan in his last season in San Antonio, shooting jump hooks on the gun 45 minutes before a shoot around of game like 40 of the season. He's shooting 3-foot jump hooks over the net with the gun in his last season, and you're going, that's unbelievable that guy still had the want to and the awareness and the presence of mind to say, like, this is my process and I have to practice these little bunnies to start my day. And at that point, obviously in his career, his routines were his routines. And my hope is that we can help our young players, for each person build their own routines of what helps them prepare to play and prepare to win at the highest level.
Yeah, and I think, and listen, we face it with even, with our young players. The idea that player development, is I think sometimes people just see it as the drills you're doing out on the court, the reps you're putting in with the ball in your hands or with an assistant coach or at our level, an assistant or a manager. But you're really talking about the mental part of that growth and player development. And in many cases, it's more important. You can't have one without the other.
Yeah, we've actually renamed it in our building. It's human development. We want them to be better at dribbling, passing, and shooting. Believe me. I want them to be better at reading a pick and roll. But we're also trying to help young men navigate their early 20s and who they are as people and what's important to them and what drives them. Because if we don't get that stuff right, we're never going to be able to maximize the basketball. We have to really try to have a high level of understanding of who these guys are as people, help them understand that, and then try to help them develop those parts of themselves. Like, hey, this is a habit you have. We should try to change that habit. Or this is something you actually do really well inherently. Let's double down on that. Because the mental piece, not just focus, but confidence and mental health is talked about so much in our world today. We want these young men to be operating at their highest level as people, because when they feel good about themselves and they feel good about their lives, they have a way better opportunity to be successful as basketball players.
Well, when you bring a player like Kevin Love into that environment, listen, I'm sure when he initially gets moved to Utah, you're in a rebuild. He's at a very different point in his career. He's probably going to have some questions about, is this maybe the best environment for me? Is there a way for me to go somewhere else? And then you've got to sell him, I think, a little bit on, right? Like, hey, this can be an environment where you can help us and hopefully we can help you. And maybe at some point we can get you to a place where they're, uh, might be making a deep run in the playoffs or in the playoffs. But he's certainly been, I think, the preeminent player of this era. Really brought the idea, along with DeMar DeRozan and some others, but really brought mental health for players, for organizations. I think more into the forefront and was public in a way about it. Others haven't. I've got to imagine just having him in your environment with young guys has a real benefit.
Yeah, when I talked to Kevin this summer, he did have a lot of questions, and rightfully so. Like he's earned the right to to really try to understand what's going on here and how he fit. And I told Kevin, I can't promise you minutes, but I can promise you a role and that we need you. Because we have a lot of young players that are going through the early part of their career, trying to find their footing, and you have a ton of experience. And you've had good experiences, you've had bad experiences, but you also have what they want, which is longevity in the NBA. You've won at the highest level, and you can say things to them that I can't. Like, you can speak from experiences that I can't. And, Kevin has been very honest with our team. He's been very honest with me in terms of moments that he's struggled in his career, and why, what he's learned from those things, the perspective now that he has. And I think those things are helping all of us grow. Believe me, Kevin has an impact on me just like he has on our players. I'm still navigating being a head coach. This is my 4th year as a head coach. I'm 38 years old. Like, I don't have it all figured out. And so we all approach this as we're going through this journey together and we're growing together. Our players are getting better at their craft. I'm trying to get better at my craft. And I think that Kevin has really brought, not only a ton of honesty and perspective to our group. He's got such a good way about him with his teammates. The way he interacts with our young players, he gives them grace to move through mistakes, recognizing that he's had moments in his career where he's made mistakes. He brings a lot of joy to our building. He's a really funny guy, and we're lucky to have him. I think we need to use his whole experience because it lifts up our group. I want us to all develop in every way that we can. And I think it would be a total waste to not have Kevin's experiences be a real part of our team.
Hearing about the strategy behind roster building reminds me of how Novig approaches sports predictions. It's all about making smart plays with the best odds. On Novig, you're in control, matching up directly with other fans, not the house. No vig, just fair matchups. Learn more about Novig, America's #1 sports prediction market, at novig.us/Woj, and use code the program for a match up to $100 on your first purchase. Will people, if they follow Jazz social media and they see you in the locker room after a game, you'll say to the guys, hey, show love. Where does that come from? What does that mean to your group, to your organization when you tell that to the players?
Yeah, that's our team and sort of organizational now mantra. For me, it's a way of life. It's not just about basketball. The world is a pretty negative place, and our players, pro athletes, people in the limelight, they deal with a lot of negativity. And I recognize that that's just part of the world that we live in. But I do think that showing love is something that we can sort of branch off into a bunch of different directions. Like, we talk to the team all the time. First and foremost, show love to yourself. Show love to your family, to your friends, to your teammates, to our fans, to the community. We're trying to engender this feeling of respecting one another, celebrating each other. Showing love to somebody else does not take away from you. We do an exercise with our team all the time in our team meetings. We will start the team meeting with, hey, Woj, anybody in the room, anybody in the room you want to show love to? And you'll say, hey, Kevin, I really appreciate what you're doing for me. Like, you've helped me a lot through this last week. It's been hard, And then we get, Kevin, you want to show love to somebody? And we have 4 or 5 guys do it every day. And sometimes they show love to teammates. Sometimes it's coaches. Sometimes it's a video guy. Sometimes it's the people who work in our kitchen. But it's just an exercise to remind ourselves that we can really support each other. We can be happy for each other. We recognize the good that some of these people are giving to us, and it doesn't take away from me. I think pro sports in particular, because it's competitive, not just with the other teams, but all these guys are playing for contracts and their careers. And there are moments where certain people can see their teammates as competition. And we want to continue to create an environment every day where we're all in it together. When our players come to our gym, this is a place they want to be. It feels good to be here. It's a couple of hours away from the outside world. We brought this theme to our group 2.5 years ago, and it's stuck. So it's who we are now.
Last thing, Will, the way you have to collaborate with a front office as a head coach, you saw how it worked, at the highest level in San Antonio with Greg Popovich and RC Buford and his staff, and then in Boston for a shorter window with Joe Mazzulla, Brad Stevens, and now in Utah. Uh, what does it look like at its best? What does a head coach in a front office have to be able to achieve with each other, even if it's not always agreement, because you're not going to agree on everything? How do you work through that relationship?
Yeah, we have to, number one, what are our goals? Like, we have to be very clear about the steps that we want to take to get better. I think, you use the word agreement, and yeah, you're right. We don't always agree, but we always find a way to align. And ultimately, I think the most important thing is like no keeping score. We're not turning this into like, oh, you did this or I did that. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we all want the same thing, and we're not the enemy. Like, we're on the same team. And we keep this conversation flowing. Like, one of the things that I respect so much and have loved about working here is we don't have to schedule meetings very much because the conversations happen every single day, and we don't leave dead space for things to be taken out of context. We don't leave dead space for assumptions. The communication is honest every day. Sometimes that means that we disagree and we can argue, and that's just part of it. But we want the same things, and the outside world is always ready to pick you apart. We have to make sure that we're not going to pick each other apart. It doesn't matter who did what. Like, we don't care who gets the credit. I think when I look back at my time in San Antonio watching Pop and RC, it didn't matter who got the credit. I think RC is probably one of the most like under-celebrated people in our league in terms of winning and success. All the things he's done for that organization and the way that he went about it. It's something that I try to emulate when I can, is that like, I really don't care who gets the credit. Austin, Justin, Danny, Ryan, no one cares who gets the credit. We want to win. We want the Jazz to get the credit. And yeah, like any relationship, we have our moments. But we're so aligned every day because we really don't give each other much space. It's a conversation that's happening 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm really lucky to work with and for this group of people because I do recognize that not just in the NBA, but in pro sports in general, it's not like that everywhere. Right. There are a lot of people who care about getting the credit. And that's not what we have here.
Yeah. When people ask me about what good organizations look like or what makes good organizations go in the NBA, the one thing that I've always noticed and believed were there were two things that undid organizations more than anything else. It was the grab for credit and the passing of blame. And if you could operate in between those two places, because nothing to me tore organizations apart more than those two things, and the places that, because you're going to have ups and downs, and how everybody handled it together. I always thought that's what separated successful ones from ones that probably didn't sustain any. But Will, you got a game tonight. I appreciate you as always taking time for me. Good luck. I know you and I will talk soon.
Great to see you, bro. Talk soon.
Okay. A big thank you to my guest this week, Utah Jazz coach Will Hardy. Be sure to catch up with us next Wednesday for a new episode of the program.